6 reasons women want men who don't value them. The brutal reality. There's a strange paradox in the world of attraction, one that's frustrated, confused, and even broken countless men. It goes like this. The more a man prioritizes a woman, the less she seems to want him. Meanwhile, the guy who barely acknowledges her existence, he's the one she can't stop thinking about. It's not just a modern dating trend. It's a pattern as old as time, a phenomenon that philosophers, psychologists, and even poets have wrestled with for centuries. And if you've ever found yourself wondering why women seem drawn to men who don't value them, you're not alone. It's easy to take this at face value and assume the worst. Women only want men who treat them poorly. They like the chase and nothing else. Nice guys finish last. But the truth is far more complex than those bitter oversimplifications. Women aren't consciously choosing to be undervalued. Instead, they're responding, often subconsciously, to deep psychological triggers that have been hardwired into human nature. And if you really want to understand why this happens, you have to go beyond dating advice and dig into something far more powerful: ancient Stoic wisdom. The Stoics, men like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, understood human behavior on a level that most modern self-help gurus never will. They weren't dating coaches. They weren't trying to crack some secret code to attraction. But what they did understand, better than most, is how value, power, and self-respect shape human relationships. They saw firsthand how people crave what they can't easily have, how detachment creates an illusion of strength, and how chasing external validation leads only to suffering. So if you've ever felt like your kindness gets overlooked while indifference is rewarded, you're not crazy, and you're not alone. The reason why women seem to want men who don't value them isn't just about toxic attraction or unhealthy preferences. It's about something much deeper, something rooted in philosophy, psychology, and even biology. And today, we're breaking it all down. By the end of this, you won't just understand why this dynamic happens, you'll also know how to navigate it. Not by playing games or pretending to be someone you're not, but by mastering the one thing that the Stoics valued above all else: yourself. Reason 1. The chase activates desire. Picture this. A man showers a woman with attention, compliments, and affection. He makes himself available at all times, eager to prove his devotion. Yet, instead of appreciating his efforts, she seems to pull away. Then there's another man, the one who barely acknowledges her, who seems indifferent to whether she stays or leaves. He's the one she keeps thinking about, the one who occupies her mind long after their interactions are over. Why? Because the human mind is wired to chase what it cannot easily have. This isn't just a dating phenomenon. It's a fundamental part of human psychology. We don't value what's freely given. We value what requires effort. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." This speaks directly to the power of anticipation. The moment something feels uncertain, the mind fixates on it. It imagines scenarios, possibilities, outcomes, and that emotional investment makes the object of desire seem even more valuable. Women, like all humans, are drawn to what is just out of reach. When a man acts indifferent, his value isn't immediately clear, and that uncertainty creates an intoxicating effect. Her mind begins to fill in the blanks. Why isn't he chasing me? What makes him so different? Does he have options? Suddenly, he's not just another guy, he's a challenge. And challenges ignite desire. Modern psychology has a term for this: intermittent reinforcement. It's the same principle that makes gambling so addictive. When a reward is unpredictable, when attention is given in an inconsistent pattern, the brain fixates on it even more. This is why people get addicted to relationships that are a mix of highs and lows. It's the uncertainty that keeps them hooked. Now, here's the twist. Most men believe that if they give more, if they prove their love, they'll be appreciated. But in reality, the opposite often happens. A man who constantly seeks approval, who makes himself too available, removes all mystery. He doesn't give the mind any room to wonder, to chase, to invest emotionally. And when there's no chase, there's no desire. The Stoics understood this dynamic deeply. They taught that we should never become too attached to external validation, because the moment we do, we give away our power. A man who doesn't chase a woman isn't necessarily trying to manipulate her. He's simply living by a higher principle. He values himself enough not to beg for attention, and ironically, that very lack of neediness makes him even more desirable. Reason 2. Indifference triggers respect. Respect and attraction are deeply connected. And if there's one thing that's clear throughout history, it's that people respect those who don't beg for their approval. Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." This is the root of why men who appear indifferent are often respected, and why men who try too hard often aren't. Think about it. The man who constantly tries to impress, who puts a woman on a pedestal, who bends over backward to gain her attention, he's showing, unintentionally, that he values her more than he values himself. And in doing so, he lowers his own worth in her eyes. Contrast this with the man who doesn't seek validation. He operates on his own terms. He isn't rude or dismissive, but he also doesn't revolve his life around gaining anyone's attention. His sense of self-worth isn't dependent on whether or not a woman approves of him, and that, ironically, makes him someone worth respecting. Women, like all people, are naturally drawn to those who command respect. A man who doesn't need to prove his worth is perceived as strong. He's the one who leads, who stands firm, who doesn't waver in his sense of self. And in a world where many people are desperate for approval, that kind of self-assurance is magnetic. This doesn't mean men should pretend to be indifferent as some sort of dating strategy. Stoicism isn't about manipulation, it's about genuine self-mastery. A man who is truly indifferent to external validation isn't acting like he doesn't care. He genuinely doesn't. He's too busy pursuing his own purpose, his own growth, to be preoccupied with proving himself. And in doing so, he naturally earns the respect and admiration of others. The tragedy of the nice guy isn't that he's kind. It's that he often confuses kindness with neediness. There's nothing wrong with being good-hearted, but when that goodness is driven by a desire to be liked, it loses its power. True confidence comes from within, and the man who respects himself first is the man who, ultimately, is respected by others. Reason 3. The illusion of high status. There's an unspoken rule in human psychology. People assume that those who are hard to obtain must be valuable. It's not always true, but perception is powerful. And when a man doesn't chase a woman, when he acts as if her presence or absence doesn't affect him, he creates the illusion of high status. This isn't about arrogance or manipulation. It's about a fundamental truth that the Stoics understood well. People who don't seek external validation are seen as self-sufficient, and self-sufficiency is attractive. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." In other words, the more detached you are from seeking approval, the more powerful you appear. When a man seems indifferent to whether a woman chooses him or not, the natural assumption is that he must have options. And in the social dynamics of attraction, options equal value. Think about high-status individuals, whether it's celebrities, successful entrepreneurs, or even just the most respected people in your social circle. Do they beg for attention? Do they constantly try to prove their worth? No. Their value is assumed because they carry themselves as if they already have it. They don't chase because they don't need to. Now contrast that with the average guy who desperately tries to impress a woman. He's always available, always accommodating, always trying to prove that he's good enough. But in doing so, he signals the opposite. He implies that he isn't valuable, that he needs to earn her approval because he lacks natural worth. Women, like all people, respond to status signals, even if it's subconscious. If a man doesn't chase, if he acts as if he already has a life full of meaning, women assume he must be desirable. And once that assumption is made, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. She starts wondering why he's so confident, why he doesn't seem desperate for her validation, and suddenly, she wants to find out more. The key lesson from Stoicism: true confidence isn't about pretending to be high status, it's about actually becoming it. The more a man invests in himself, his purpose and his own growth, the less he needs to chase. And the less he chases, the more naturally attractive he becomes.